So I don't have time to go into the big, long story, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I was born to 2 Christian parents. They were good people. They had varying views from each other and varying views from myself, but they tried. They have always tried to love God. They were in a Southern gospel group for many years as I was growing up. And so we traveled around central and southern Indiana and eastern Kentucky trying to see different churches, with that group. And my parents also had a problem. I don't want to say problem. They had seemed to have a hard time knowing where they should be with God and with churches. And so we went to a lot of different churches for that too. And so it wasn't really until I was about 6th grade that I kind of started having a home church. And I really enjoyed it though. We went every Sunday, and I started playing the drums there. And I looked forward to being in the youth group. But when I was a freshman, just 3 years later, the church kind of broke up unceremoniously. We came in one Sunday, and they said, "Okay, that was fun. See ya." So I quickly got into another church because I was ready. I wanted to be a part of God. So I found a church, and the biggest church in our hometown, actually. And we had over 1,000 people on a Sunday morning. In our youth group, we had over 250, sometimes over 300 students every single Wednesday night. And with a youth group that big, we had our own band. And it was, not just a piano and a guitar and some goofy guy singing, but it was like a full band like we got here. And then we had our own drama team. We had greeters and ushers, altar workers, butlers, maids, cooks, cleaners. It was awesome. Everything you could want, we had. And I became involved in all of it. And not only involved, but I also kind of became a leader in most of those things. And I really thought I knew what it was to serve God, but I obviously didn't at that point, to come to find out. As it is for many people, high school was very tumultuous for me. Just a year later, as a sophomore, I met a girl, and this girl was like 1 to 2 social classes above me. She was really cool, kind of popular, and I was what you call a nerd. Much like this, only about 70 pounds lighter. My sophomore year, I was 5'4" and like 115 pounds, and I promise you, I'm not now. But what happened, by dating this girl, I got some popularity. The guys on the wrestling team and the basketball teams, they started saying, "Hey, nice, good job." And I started standing a little bit higher. I was 5'4.5". Yeah, it was awesome. Didn't gain any weight though, so I became skinnier. I liked that. I really craved that attention. It was something I really enjoyed. As time went on, a year later, my parents decided it was time for them to move to Florida. And I know what you're thinking. Florida. 2 years in the sun, on the beach. Anybody ever been to like actual Florida? It is about as redneck as you get. Like, it is horrible. Which, no offense to anybody who loves that state, but honestly, there's nothing there except for like Universal Studios that really draws me. I love that place. Okay, yeah, you were right over there, the Gulf Coast. But that's not where they were going. So I put up a big fight. And I didn't want to go. And I fought for like a month. And I actually won that fight against my parents. And I stayed in our home in central Indiana where I had grown up. By myself, 16 years old. I was on my own. I went and got a job. I put food in the house. Started paying some of the bills. My parents paid for the most of the stuff, but as time went on and they made less and I made a little bit more and I was there to pay the water bill and they weren't, it just kind of happened. And I felt good because I was an adult, so I thought. I still stayed up with church, kept my girlfriend going. I still was a pretty good student, but I started slipping into things doing some things behind closed doors that our parents and our pastors wouldn't want to know about, or at least that we didn't want them to know about. And I went further and further away from God. My senior year, it kind of all fell apart. It's when it really hit rock bottom. And we broke up, as those relationships tend to do. And I realized at that point that I had completely turned my back on everything except this girl. And when I didn't have her anymore, I didn't have anything. And now I didn't have her. It made me mad. I got really upset with God. Started thinking that God had left me, that I had given up my family and my friends and my church, and now he had taken that away from me too. Why would God do that? I started looking into other denominations, and then further into other religions, found a lot of peace in Buddhism, and kind of really thought maybe this was the way to go. Started seeking out new friends, more girls, found a lot of parties, a lot of alcohol, and even started getting into drugs. But all into that, I was actually kind of blessed, if you can believe that. See, that time of my life only lasted about 2 years. And by the time I was 19, I'd met a girl, I'd settled down a little bit, and really thought I was falling in love. By the time I was 22, we were married. We were married, and we thought we were in love, and we were doing great, and we'd been hurt by church, so we didn't want to do the church thing, but we loved God, and we tried to do God on our own. Anybody know how well that works? Doesn't. That's right. And it didn't. And we didn't do real well. I was a horrible husband, and she was not the best wife. And so, by the time I was 29, we were divorced. Now, what hurt me the most is I was losing my best friend, because we were really good at being best friends. But outside of that, I was really trying to figure out again, where was God? What was God doing here? How could this be a plan? Now, through that, something pretty amazing happened. This girl that I had known for a couple of years, we just happened to be on the same night, the night that my wife and I decided to get divorced. I was online, playing around on Facebook, and this girl got online and said, "Hey, how you doing?" Simple like that. And I said, "Well, pretty good, except, getting divorced, that kind of sucks. But how are you?" And we started talking. One thing led to another, and 11 years later, we're married. Well, I mean, we've been married for a while, but we're still married. But those 11 years, they've not been perfect. We've hurt each other, and there have been a lot of things that have hurt me outside of our marriage. The thing that was most hurting was the multiple miscarriages that we went through. You see, there was one thing that I wanted in life outside of a good wife, and that was a little girl, or a little boy, but a little girl. And I saw people around me having kids, people that couldn't afford them, people that beat them, people that yelled at them, that couldn't give them the life that I thought I could give to a child. But I couldn't have. What kind of God is that? And with every single one, to the best of my recollection, 9 miscarriages before our daughter was born. And with every single one, I was chipped away at and broken down further and further, to the point that I knew there was a God. There was no way I could deny it. But I knew he hated me, and he was punishing me for everything that I had done, and he wanted me to kill myself. And so I was going to give him that chance. I didn't know what was going to happen, where I would go. I assumed it would be hell, but I wasn't going to live on this world no more. So I made a plan. I decided what I was going to do. Couldn't muster the strength. Mostly because I thought, if I'm hurting this much, how much is my wife hurting? I saw what she was doing, and I saw that she felt abandoned. And I wasn't going to be like God. I was not going to let her be alone from God and from her husband. So I didn't do it. And I mustered a little bit of energy, a little courage, got a little bit better, and a little bit better. And pretty soon, we found out that we were pregnant again. She was pregnant. I just looked like it. But she was pregnant. And something in both of us actually felt different this time. For some reason, we felt like maybe it was good. The doctor's appointments went well. And even though Elizabeth was on bed rest, we had hope. And for some reason, we thought this was really going to happen this time. And even when Kennedy was born 6.5 weeks early and spent 28 days in the NICU, we had hope. And we actually started believing that hope was in God. So after she was born, we were really happy and really close as a family for a little bit, but shortly that new of having a baby kind of wore off, and we realized that we were missing each other. And to get back to each other, we knew we needed God. And to be with God, we probably should be with a church, because we already figured out that didn't work. But where in Evansville do you go to church? There's a church on every corner and everyone in between. But I had this supervisor at work, see. And he told me, without ever telling me, that Jesus was pretty awesome. He showed me what it was like to be a Christian without ever saying, this is how you are a Christian. He showed me God. And I thought if there was one place in this whole world, one church that I wanted to go to, it was a church where John Wilcox goes. And I found Catalyst. And turns out there's a lot of John Wilcox types in this place. Sweet, kind, loving, and a little goofy. I don't know if John's still here, but he knows I love him. And so here we are. We've been here for about 3 years. We're not perfect. We mess up, but we're getting a little bit better every day. But it's those things that I've been through, those times of hurt, those times of anger, those times of just downright crappiness, that makes me think I can't be used by God because I'm not worthy. Am I the only one, though? Anybody else feel like they can't be used by God? Yeah, it happens a lot. Today, what I hope to do is give you guys some encouragement, because what I'm going to read to you, what we're going to talk about, really encouraged me